Ever wished you could like totally control your dreams?
Yeah.
Actually be in charge of what happens.
Yeah, like direct the narrative and everything.
Exactly. That's the whole idea behind lucid dreaming. And that's what we're diving deep into today. But not just like how to lucid dream, but like what it might tell us about how our minds actually work,
It's pretty amazing, right?
Totally. So you sent over this really cool collection of stuff, articles, blog posts, even a scientific study, all about lucid dreaming, like its history and the science behind it.
And about this new Halo device.
Oh, yeah, the Halo.
Yeah.
That's causing a real buzz.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. It's so wild to me how lucid dreaming went from like this super mystical thing to like actual science.
Right. It shows you how sometimes those old ideas can actually lead to cutting-edge discoveries.
Exactly. So I was looking at these different periods in the history of lucid dreaming. Like it went from prophecy to observation to experimentation, and now I guess we're in the age of application.
Yeah. For centuries, it was all about spiritual stuff, like trying to get messages from, I don't know, the divine or something.
Like that story about St. Augustine having that dream that made him convert to Christianity.
Yeah, exactly. But by the mid-1800s, people started really documenting their dreams. They even experimented with ways to make themselves lucid.
Like, wasn't there this French guy, I think his name was Marie-Jean-Léon Marquis d'Hervé de Saint-Denis, who wrote a whole book about it in, like, 1867.
Yes, dreams and how to guide them.
Wow.
He was way ahead of his time, really carefully recorded his dreams and the techniques he was using to try and control them.
That's so cool.
Then, in 1913, this Dutch psychiatrist, Frederik van Eden, he actually coined the term lucid dream and really pushed to study it scientifically.
So that's where the term comes from.
Uh-huh.
But wasn't there a big discovery that really changed things?
Oh, you mean when they figured out REM sleep?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
In the mid-20th century, right?
Yeah. Yep. Suddenly, scientists had a way to, actually study dreaming. It wasn't just people's stories anymore.
It was real data, hard evidence.
Exactly. And that led to, well, more rigorous research on lucid dreaming, too.
Which is where people like Stephen LaBerge come in.
Right.
Didn't he show that, like, people could actually signal from inside their lucid dreams?
That's right. He had people use eye movements to show when they were lucid.
So crazy. It's like they were sending messages straight from their dream world.
It was a huge breakthrough. It really legitimized the whole field of study.
And I guess that brings us up to today, where all this research is leading to new technologies like, well, the Halo device we talked about.
Yeah, the Halo. It's designed to, reliably make you have lucid dreams.
Okay, so let's talk about the Halo, because it uses this thing called transcranial focused ultrasound, or tFUS.
That's right.
What is that? Like, how does it even work?
Yeah. So tFUS is a way to stimulate certain parts of your brain, and it does it using sound waves. It's non-invasive, which is good. Basically, there are these things called transducers. They take electrical energy and turn it into these super focused sound waves.
Transducers? That sounds kind of like Star Trek-y.
Well, I mean, they might sound futuristic,
Right.
but they're real. Think of them like tiny little devices that change energy from one form to another.
Got it.
And as technology's gotten better, transducers have gotten smaller and way more precise.
So they can, like, target tiny areas of the brain.
Exactly. And that means, a whole world of possibilities for studying the brain and influencing how it works.
Wow. So back to tFUS and lucid dreaming. How does it actually make you have a lucid dream? Like, does it just blast your brain with sound until you're, I don't know, flying?
No, it's not quite like that. It's much more precise. tFUS targets the parts of your brain that are involved in dreaming and consciousness, the parts that create those super vivid experiences we have in dreams. The Halo actually has this AI called Morpheus AI.
An AI?
Yeah. It analyzes your brain activity and figures out the perfect timing and intensity for the ultrasound pulses.
So it's kind of like customizing the sound waves for each person.
In a way, yeah. It's like a conductor leading an orchestra, making sure everything works together to create that lucid dream state.
That's a great analogy. Okay, but is it safe? I mean, blasting your brain with sound, even if it is precise, still seems a little intense,
I get it. But safety is always the top priority. And tFUS has actually been shown to be safe when it's used within the right parameters. And it has fewer side effects than other ways of stimulating the brain.
Well, that's good here. But are there any risks? You said parameters, so I'm guessing there are some limits to what's safe.
So two of the physical risks that researchers are looking at are cavitation and heating.
Cavitation.
Yeah, it's when pressure changes make these tiny bubbles form in bodily fluids, and a specific type called inertial cavitation can damage tissue.
So like exploding bubbles in your brain.
Well, the intensities used in tFUS are way, way below that threshold. So no exploding bubbles, don't worry.
Oh, good. What about the heating?
That's controlled by monitoring something called the thermal index.
Okay.
The HALO system keeps a close eye on it to make sure the brain tissue doesn't get too hot.
That's reassuring. But even if it's physically safe, what about like messing with your mind? Could it have any, I don't know, like psychological side effects?
You're right to ask that. It's a very important point. And there's actually a whole area of research dedicated to what they call neuroaffective risks.
Neuroaffective risks.
Basically, it means any unwanted mental or emotional side effects. Researchers are taking this super seriously, especially because, well, there's the potential for misuse.
Right. Oh.
One thing they're looking at is the possibility of negative changes in your mood, like increased anxiety or problems sleeping.
That makes sense.
That's why it's so important to, really carefully map out those brain pathways and have really strong safety protocols, minimize those risks.
So it sounds like there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong, but also potential benefits.
Exactly. It's a balancing act.
But even if we get it all right, I mean, why go through all this just to have a few lucid dreams? What's the big deal?
That's the big question, right? And it brings us to, well, why we're here today. The potential of lucid dreaming, it goes way beyond just having fun in your dreams. Some researchers think it could be a really powerful tool for understanding consciousness itself.
Wait, are you saying that lucid dreaming could help us solve, like, the biggest mystery of the human mind?
It might sound crazy, but more and more research is starting to support that idea.
Wow. Okay, so explain it to me like I'm 5.
All right. So think about particle accelerators. Physicists use them to smash atoms together at super high speeds so they can study the fundamental building blocks of the universe.
Okay, I'm listening.
Lucid dreaming could be like a particle accelerator for consciousness. It gives you this totally unique state of mind, different from being awake and different from being asleep.
So we can actually observe the mind, like in action.
Exactly. When you're lucid dreaming, you're dreaming. And a lot of times you can even control things. But you're still in that immersive dream world.
So it's this rare chance to, like, isolate and study what's happening in the brain when we're conscious.
Right. And it's not possible to do that when we're awake.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So are there any theories about how consciousness actually works that we could test out?
Actually, there are quite a few theories competing for attention.
Really?
Two of the most famous are integrated information theory, or IIT, and then there's global neuronal workspace theory, or GNWT.
Okay, I've definitely heard those names thrown around, but I'm not really sure I understand them. Do they even agree on anything? Or are they totally different?
They're pretty different in terms of how they explain how consciousness arises. So IIT says that consciousness is like a fundamental property of any system that's really interconnected and complex. Think of it like an orchestra where all the instruments work together to make this whole sound.
Okay.
And in the brain, each part has its own role. And consciousness just emerges from all those complex interactions.
Okay, I think I'm following you. So what about the other one, GNWT?
So GNWT, it says that consciousness happens when information is broadcast across a network of specialized parts of the brain. Like, imagine a global news network. They're sending important information out to everyone at the same time.
So different areas are processing information, but then we become conscious when it's all shared.
That's the idea.
Interesting. But proving any of this stuff, it sounds really hard.
You're absolutely right. There's no scientific consensus on which theory is the right one. And some people are even worried about this thing called a consciousness winter.
Consciousness winter?
Yeah, like where disagreements between scientists could actually hold back progress.
So like funding dries up and people stop researching because everyone's arguing?
Potentially, yeah.
Wow. So I guess even the experts are still figuring out how this whole consciousness thing works.
Pretty much. But that's what makes it so exciting to study. There's so much we still don't know.
I know. This is all so fascinating. This whole conversation has really got me thinking. We've talked about the history of lucid dreaming, the tech behind the halo, and now these mind-blowing theories of consciousness.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But it's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential for lucid dreaming to help us understand consciousness. But what about the other side of the coin, the ethics of all of this? This tech could really change how we experience our own minds.
Absolutely. That's a crucial part of the conversation, and one we should definitely explore further.
It's a bit mind-boggling to think about, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And I think one of the biggest concerns is, misuse. What if this tech got into the wrong hands?
Like, what could happen?
Well, think about it. Could someone use it to, manipulate or control people's thoughts, their emotions?
Whoa. That's kind of scary. We're talking like dystopian mind control, right?
No, it's not impossible. And that's exactly why it's so important to have these discussions now before this tech becomes, widely available.
Yeah, we need some ground rules, like
Yeah.
how can we prevent misuse?
Well, we need to think about things like regulations,
Yeah.
ethical review boards, maybe even licenses for who can use it and what they can use it for.
It's all so new. We're really in uncharted territory.
We are, and that's why these conversations are so crucial. We also need to consider the impact on people's minds over the long term. We know lucid dreaming can be powerful, but are there any unintended consequences of messing with our dreams all the time?
Right, like could it mess with our sleep or our
Yeah.
memories or even blur the lines between what's real and what's a dream?
All valid questions. We need more research to figure all that out. And then there's the potential for addiction.
Addiction to lucid dreaming.
Yeah, think about it. What if it becomes so pleasurable, so enticing, that people start neglecting their real lives, choosing the perfect dream world over the real one?
I can see that happening. It's like the ultimate escape.
Exactly. That's why responsible use is so important. Mindfulness. Lucid dreaming has this amazing potential for growth, but it's not a substitute for actually, living a good life.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all. It's about approaching it with caution, openly discussing the risks and benefits, creating ethical frameworks to guide how it's developed and used.
Right. It's about being smart about it, not just being afraid of it.
Exactly. But even if we solve all the practical issues, there's still the philosophical question, is it even right to mess with our dreams? I mean, they're supposed to be this mysterious part of our subconscious,
Yeah.
right?
Should we really be trying to control them?
That's a question that has puzzled people for a long time. It brings us to this concept called noetic sovereignty.
Noetic sovereignty.
It's the idea that each person has the right to decide what goes on in their own mind, their own conscious experience, like freedom of speech, but for your thoughts.
I like that. Freedom of thought.
So the question is, does using tech to control lucid dreams violate that right?
It's like we're weighing freedom of thought against the power of technology.
Exactly. And there's no easy answer. Some people say yes, it violates that right, that it's interfering with our natural minds. Others say no, it's just giving us more control over our own minds.
Two sides of the same coin, I guess. This whole thing reminds me of that thought experiment about the experience machine.
Oh, yeah. That's a great comparison.
So for people who haven't heard of it, what's the experience machine?
It's this idea from the philosopher Robert Nozick. Imagine a machine that could simulate any experience you want perfectly. It would feel totally real.
So like the ultimate virtual reality.
Even better, you could live out your fantasies, achieve all your dreams, anything. But the catch is, once you're plugged in, you can't tell the difference between the simulation and reality.
Wow. So the question is, would you choose to live in this perfect world, even though it's fake?
Yeah.
Or stick with the real world with all its ups and downs?
That's the dilemma.
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, a life of pure happiness sounds pretty great, but I think I'd miss real life, the good and the bad.
A lot of people feel that way. And that dilemma, it's really relevant to the debate about lucid dreaming tech. Some say it's like a mini experience machine, that we're creating artificial experiences that could distract us from real life.
So are we losing the realness of our dreams for control and pleasure?
It's a valid point. But people who are in favor of lucid dreaming tech say it's different. With lucid dreaming, you know you're dreaming. You're part of creating the experience. It's not about escaping reality. It's about consciously exploring your own mind.
And maybe gaining insights that can help you in real life.
Exactly. It's less about pleasure and more about self-discovery.
Okay, I see the difference. It's like intentional dreaming.
Right. Lucid dreaming tech if it's used the right way, it could give people so much power to face their fears, to deal with emotions, to be more creative, to understand themselves better.
It's like having a therapist and a coach all rolled into one.
Exactly.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
there's still that question, are there long-term consequences we haven't even thought of?
Right. Is it really safe to mess with our dreams like this?
That's something we need to keep asking as this tech develops. But maybe instead of just focusing on the risks, we can also think about the possibilities.
I like that. Okay, so back to this idea of a Qualia Takeoff. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild concept. It basically refers to this hypothetical point where our understanding of consciousness just explodes, and it leads to these huge changes in what humans are capable of.
It's like the singularity, but for our minds, right?
Exactly. Instead of AI taking over, it's about us unlocking the full potential of our own consciousness.
So are we talking about like being able to control our thoughts and feelings, even our perceptions?
Potentially, yeah. It's about reaching a level of awareness and control that we can barely imagine right now.
I mean, I've always found dreams fascinating. They feel so real. To think that we might be able to like actually shape our own qualia, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It really is. Some researchers think lucid dreaming could be like a key step towards this qualia takeoff. If we can understand how consciousness works in dreams, it might give us clues about how to, unlock those same abilities in the real world.
That's amazing. So what could this future look like? I mean, what would it mean to have this kind of control over our minds?
Well, imagine a world where you could choose to feel specific emotions or change how you experience time and space. You could access your memories directly, even change them, maybe even merge your consciousness with others. The possibilities are, well, kind of endless.
I'm not sure if that's exciting or terrifying, honestly. It's definitely a lot to think about.
It is. It's a future with immense potential, but also some pretty big questions.
But it's definitely worth considering, especially as this tech keeps developing. It's funny, this whole conversation has me thinking about something you mentioned earlier, something about the unbearable whiteness of the universe.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's this idea from an essay by Eric Hall. He was talking about how the planet Neptune, which we always thought was blue, is actually way paler, almost white. The images we had were, like, enhanced.
Really? So Neptune isn't blue after all?
Kind of disappointing, right?
Yeah, a little. But I'm curious, what does that have to do with consciousness?
So Hall uses this loss of color as a metaphor for how science often kind of strips away our subjective experience of the world.
Like reducing everything to just data points.
Exactly. It's like those incredible photos from the James Webb Space Telescope. They're scientifically amazing, but they don't really capture how we feel when we look up at the night sky.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
There's something missing, right?
Yeah. Science tells us that colors, sounds, smells, tastes, all those things that make up our experience, they're actually just wavelengths, vibrations, chemical compounds. They don't objectively exist out there. Our brains create them.
So you're saying like the redness of a rose, it's all in our heads?
In a way, yeah. Our brains build a model of the world based on the information they get from our senses. And that model is what we experience as reality.
Whoa. That's a lot to process. So how does this tie back to lucid dreaming?
So Horrell talks about this unbearable whiteness as like a blank canvas. It represents the objective universe, stripped of all those qualities that we experience. It's this vast empty space. And our subjective experience, all those colors and feelings, that's what brings meaning to it all.
Wow. So we're all like artists painting our own realities.
I love that. And I think lucid dreaming is a way to, really explore that, to reclaim our subjective experience, to paint those masterpieces. Instead of just accepting the world as it's presented to us, we can actually shape it, at least in our dreams.
So we're not just passive observers anymore.
Right. We can become active participants in creating our own experiences. And that, I think, is what makes lucid dreaming so powerful. It gives us this incredible playground for exploring the potential of consciousness.
Wow. This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much: the history, the science, the ethics, even the philosophy of lucid dreaming.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. But I think we've only just scratched the surface. So as we wrap things up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I'd say don't be afraid to explore the mystery of consciousness. It's the most fundamental part of who we are, but we still know so little about it. Whether it's through lucid dreaming, scientific research, or just, being curious and open-minded, we can all unlock a little more of the incredible potential of our own minds.
What a great way to put it. This has been a truly mind-expanding exploration of lucid dreaming and the mysteries of consciousness. We've barely scratched the surface, but hopefully, this has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore the incredible potential of your own mind. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive, and keep exploring.